Hi, welcome to the Alan Show. If you're my subscriber, or if you've seen me before, I appreciate you tuning back in. As you know, or for those that don't know, I'm a salesman. And the reason why I decided to do videos is because in my lifetime, I have managed people, I have been managed by people, I have been trained in the art of selling. Are you stressed out these days? Are you having too much on your plate? How do we deal with all this, right? Well, for me, the way I deal with this is with the truth. Not the truth that everybody is pursuing, but with my truth. As you can see, people going this way, that way, up, down. They want salvation, they want to blame other people. But how many people really are telling the truth? Do you tell the truth? Do you offer the truth as the first thing when you speak? That's not a question to answer to me, but just to pick your brain. In the art of selling, there's always this crucial moment when you meet somebody for the first time. If you ask me what percentage of people lie to me the first time I meet them, I will say that over 65%. They either say they're not interested, they're not buying, or they'll tell me all kinds of excuses, like if I'm the redeemer, right? In fact, I really don't care one way or another. The truth is that when somebody tell me that they're not going to buy, that's when I go to work. So if their idea that a salesman is going to walk away when they lie to him is actually counterproductive. Man. If somebody tells me that he's here to buy or whatever, then what do I need a salesman for, right? You already made up your mind, you already know what you need, and but most people really have a problem telling the truth the first time. At least that's my experience. But why is it? Sometimes it's fear of consequences. Like when I was a kid, if I did something, so I might omit the truth or something to get away with not being punished, or because out of fear, I don't want to be punished. But let's talk about two things when I was growing up. As I was a young thing, which is when you start developing that thing called character, I noticed that I had two qualities. One was that I was very mature for my age, that everywhere I went, people thought that I was older, and that my friends always came to me for like advice or to do something for them like a grown up. I kind of like that position of leadership, kind of like that position of being the guy to look up to. But here was the other thing. The other thing that I noticed in my character was that I was a bit intolerant, meaning that when I saw something out of order or so, I fell on it right away. Sometimes people didn't like that. Well, I had to manage that. So I said, as I was growing up, I said, well, how do I become more patient with people? Well, as a salesman, if you want to succeed, you have to be extremely patient with people. You almost have to see them develop from that first lie into your friend. And it's all in the art of selling. Selling is used in all kinds of things besides products and services. It's also an intangible thing like a philosophy or psychology. The art of selling, the art of convincing. Selling is nothing more than a philosophy of convincing one person to believe what you believe. I believe in my product or my service or what I believe, and I want you to believe in it. Two principles. One is a good thing for you. Another one is a good thing that you like it for me. Call commission, profits, whatever you want to call it. Why are people so stressed out today? Well, in general, I have noticed that people are a bit dishonest these days. Not dishonest perhaps with other people, but dishonest with themselves. For the last 40 years, we've seen the decline of the family values going from the home into the streets. After all, when we leave home, we are on the streets. So what this is about order. Life cannot be fulfilled without order. It's just a dead-end situation. People try, and then finally they understand that that is the way. But how do you go with order in a happy way, in a voluntary way, and not like the parents, you have to do this, or you have to do, or the government, you have to do this, or you have to do that, or at work, you have to. How do we become joyful about our engagements with life? Well, there are two elemental things, and they're right here. If you see up there, there is truth and there is trust. Let's take this up. Well, when I was a young man, I bought computers, the old computer styles. And I'm a very curious person, naturally. So I saw that my computers, from time to time, they got a little slow or they were faulty. Instead of buying another computer, I asked the technicians, right, why is my computer doing these things? And the technician said, it might need a defragmentation. Look it up. You might think you know the meaning, but it's better to double check. Maybe it's been a long time. Defragmentation, right? Basically, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Computers are 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Right? So I said, how do I do that? They said, press here, press here, press here, and then there was this screen. Well, I had a computer for a while and I never done that. So guess what? My computer needed a defragmentation. So when I saw the screen, there were blue little squares, rows and rows of squares, and then there were these gray squares. That's where the problem was. Somehow the data got disrupted there. So you had to tell the computer to go back up and put order on everything, and you could see those gray little squares filling up with blue. Well, humans, in a way, are no different than a computer. In a way, we order our thoughts, our activities. You heard of journals, calendars. We organize everything. So what happens when we're 30 years old, 40 years old, even 50 years old, and we haven't defragmented our mind, well, we're no different than those computers. There's many loose ends that need to be tied up. Some people call those mistakes, errors, amendments to be made. There are organizations that they thrive on that, on making amendments, right? How did I learn this besides the computer? Well, in a lot of training. I grew up religious, so some of them are religious values, some of them are scientific values, like psychology of selling and psychology and practice in the field of selling, meaning one-on-one with different types of people, getting to know people, and by doing that, I learned to know myself. I try for the most part to make sure that I'm in reality totally, constantly, and that I offer the truth the first time somebody talked to me. Meaning, if they say, "What's your name?" My name is Alan. Where do you live? X. And who are you? X. What happens when we ask somebody, "Hey, what's your name?" and they say J? Well, maybe his name is Jacob, right? But he just went by J. That means he's not trusting you. It's almost like saying, "Hi, how are you? My name is Alan. I'm your salesman for the day. How may I help you? And what's your name?" And they go, "Well, my name is JX, and I'm not buying right now. I'm just looking." People relate things to one another in a way they feel comfortable with. So let's get to it real quick. Maybe this help you in a way. By the way, what I'm going to show you right now is years and years of practice. This is not like instant oatmeal. No. It's a practice and it's a master. The master of patience and get to know yourself so that nothing that happens around you can hurt you or affect you unless you allow it. And also that you are 100% in reality wherever you are. Now, people always try to contradict things, right? It says, "Oh, what about if something happens to you? What about if it doesn't?" That is called speculating, and it's a terrible thing to do. When you expect the worst, it may never happen, but it already happened in your soul, in your mind, and in your brain. That's why we need defragmentation. We need to put those thoughts in order and make sure that we're not worrying about things that don't exist. Or if that they exist, they're not in your immediate reality. It's one step in front of the next. If you're already looking miles ahead, you probably will lose the way along the way. So let's talk about you and me. Real quick. We are not here by accident. We all have something called parents. You have a mother, a father, and a mother. And this is you. When you're young, it's just you and your parents. And then you enter the world of relationships. Relationships are bounded by three things: communication, affinity, and reality. The affinity that you like somebody is going to make it easier for you to communicate versus the opposite. And the reality, meaning time and place that you're in. Have you ever heard of the thought, "I wish I was somewhere else," right? Okay, now you're getting the point. If for any reason in your life any of this is missing, just by asking, well, they just are not there for whatever X reason, you need to come to terms why each one of these persons is not there. And we're going to call this color miscommunication. They're really not bad communication, only miscommunication. And we're going to call this communication. So if you have a father, do you have communication? Green. Or do you have miscommunication? And so forth, you go with each of your family members until you get a consensus of how your relationships are with others, not in your imagination, but in reality, in a piece of paper and a pen. What my life really looks like in a pen. Meaning that if somebody came to you with your book of life, it's not going to be like your Facebook. It's going to come like, okay, how do you get along with your father, with your mother? Or how do you get along with your brothers and sisters? See, relatives somewhere here, right? And then your friends. And then there's another thing, as you get in the point here, called community. How do you get along with your community? How do you get along with your church? Are you a church member or not? It doesn't have to fill in the blank. You can always say yes or no. Corporations, how is your relationship with companies that you do business with, right? After all, they're part of your relationships. See, all these things matter because they either can have a counterproductive experience in your life or they can be productive. Another thing is something that we're looking at right now, and this is the reason why I'm doing this, is why people are so angry at the government, right? Cops, soldiers, all these people, they work for the government. So in a sense, is your relationship with the institutions, government, is it a miscommunication or a communication? Meaning you can interact without having an effect on you. And that's what this is about. As long as your relationships are in balance, they're going to have a reaction in you. And that's what's called stress. Not having a total control of the present that you're living. If somebody, for example, if you had a bad boyfriend and they say they're the name of that boyfriend, it will trigger something in you. But if you already tie that loose end, whatever that bad relationship was, when you hear that name, you would have some kind of neutral feeling or an affinity towards it. We didn't end up well, but he was a nice guy. He's a nice guy. I wish him the best. The idea of this is to understand that the ladder of being affine to life is the whole purpose of living. You are an extension of life. That's all. The life passed right through you and you cannot stop it or it will choke you. You will have to extend it. When you extend life, you're going to have friends, you're going to have genuine relationships, and you're going to have less stress. Now, that comes from selling, nothing more. This is things that I have practiced in my life. That doesn't mean I don't get angry, I don't have feelings like everybody else, but for the most part, I'm in control of most of the activities that happen. Some people always test those things from you, like your parents, or right? You might have that brother that you just can't get along with, but then you practice more until, hey, he's my brother and I love him. And then that's when you come to that term where it just levels off, and it takes time, Somebody who works in woodcraft or metalcraft tell you that when you have an imperfection on something, It's a lot of work to get it done. The same thing happens with relationships. Once you have an imperfect relationship with somebody, then you're going to have to work at it until you get it done. Now, let's talk about this for a moment that's on the board so it might help you. The more we illuminate our mind with knowledge, the easier life is going to get. You know, we have probably the most churches, the most places of mental health, and we're still having a lot of problems, right? Because of trust. People are not confident to go somewhere and say, well, this is my problem. They don't have confidence of confidentiality, and they don't have confidence of the help that they're going to get. They hear a lot of things, and that scares some people. But the truth is that you're in this dimension, in this life, to experience your own reality. Every time you allow other people to suggest your mind, then you're already falling into the trap. And that's what this is about. To keep your own identity, your own soul, and your own personality in your own capacity, without so much interference from the outer world. After all, it's our life, right? So real quick, if you look at this chart here, guys, my video is not edited, so it might have some imperfections, but just to illustrate you here. Let's say you have a heritage of your family. This is something I master every day. I practice this every day. My life is not so perfect. I had a lot of issues growing up in terms of understanding who I am and where is everybody, like coming to another country and, facing all kinds of new realities, right? But I always practice this Zen thing along with my beliefs and the beliefs of other masters that are out there. Then we create this nice salad that helps us understand every single minute of our lives. We're not perfect, but we're working on it, all right? So, your first 10 years, right, you are 100% shaped by your heritage, by your family. If the absence of parents, it's going to be very difficult for you. If the abandonment of parents will be very difficult for you. As a salesman, when we deal with this type of environments, can be very hostile. People really don't trust. And if you don't trust, you're going to be a little far away from the truth. And that's what this is about. What is first? Are you truthful first or trustworthy first? So this is always that struggle. I believe, personally, that it's impossible to be truthful if you don't trust. But that's just me. So here we go. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I don't know what age you're in, and you don't have to tell me. But if you're in any of these ages, well, we have a system called raising a child or raising a human being, basically, that it goes from 10 to about 100 years. We have certain expectations that we're supposed to have during that time, and that's what makes it really easy, because it gives you a structure, and then you can play within that structure and have a lot of fun. Once you get to it, then you'll realize that it wasn't really that hard, but it's hard to give into it the first time. Trust and truth, right? So let's say, what is your desire to live? How long do you want to live, and how do you want to live? Very simple questions. If you say, well, me, I want to live 100 years. So regardless of what happens out there, my target is 100 years. So I need to be alert and attentive as to what's my surrounding in my present, not in the future, not in the past. To maximize that existence, And I want it with a lifestyle. I don't want to be just surviving, struggling. No, I want to have a lifestyle. So you have to be very clear as to the things that you really want in life so that you can obtain it. It's all about putting your hands out with the good attitude. 1 second. So you can see, and you in your mind just think of where you are. So let's say, for example, you're 30 years old. By 30 years old, you're supposed to be practicing something, right? According to society. Practice medicine, practice law, practice something. Meaning you're still not a master. A lot of people out there, they use this word master as to get some document from a university or whatever. That's a good thing, and it's one of it. But to master an ability. For example, if you have black belt in karate, you know that it's a long journey to master every single aspect of your skill. So what is your skill? And what are you practicing? So nobody really, I don't expect any 30-year-old out there to be a master in. It will be an exceptional person if it is. And he will have to prove it to me because, as I told you, I'm a little bit of a skeptic and I like to see things. I don't just like to be told about it. So by the time you're in your 40s, I heard a while back that one of the most expensive cars that is out there, the average buyer was in the 50s. Well, I got that car when I was in my 30s. So, because I heard that and I made it my goal to have it before that time. See, you put your hands out there with a good attitude and you can accomplish things. So, when you're a master, right, people rely on you. You become an inspiration, right? So people look at you and they say, oh, wow, this person does this and is a master, right? So let's go over this line. After you become a master, the reason to learn anything in life is to have the ability to teach it. What is the point of having all that knowledge just for yourself? Remember, if your life, you're an extension of life. You are not life itself. When we say, no, we're not going to teach nobody, you've seen this in the movies, the guy gets like that and it doesn't, then life is going to break you apart. Because life has to continue and extend. So if you get on the way of life, guess what? It will tear you down until you get out of the way and goes to another host and continue, because life is a continuous and infinite thing. So when you teach, you are actually extending life, extending knowledge, especially when it comes to the young minds up in their own trail, just like you did when you were coming out this way. Now, a lot of people associate teaching things with making an income, making a life. It's part of it, but you also can teach things without having to get a gratification. After all, your master has given you enough to be happy if you've done everything by the steps. Now, then it becomes inspired. See this guy with the gray here? If I start talking to people, people listen. Why? Because they see this and they think I'm wise. Maybe I painted this and I'm not that wise. But the truth is that I live certain life and I have some wisdom. That's not for me to judge. That is for some other people to do. So you get up to your 70s and you're still inspired, and you can see out there on TV, people inspire one another, right? So real quick, before I run out of time here, I like to keep this within the 30-minute range. You go up to 90, and then you can inspire and retire. Meaning that you have, obviously your energy is not as strong as it is, depending on how you took care of yourself, right? But you can still inspire and retire. People will look up to you for knowledge and wisdom and patience. You are assumed to be a very patient person if you have lived that long. So now you can see A lot of people blame their family, their parents, or the government, or something for their not being able to follow these steps. The truth is that anybody can do this. It's not really out of the ordinary, and it's never too late to begin. And that's the beauty of it. I didn't realize these things until I was a little older. But I've been managing this patience and this tolerance for a long time in my life. But you can start now. I don't know where you are in this, but it's time to get out of your heritage and get into your legacy. That's going to be the solution to your stress, to work in your own life. As long as you worry about what other people think or the life of other people, it's very hard to be at peace. You only have one life to live, and it's only yours that matter. In the end, if you do things right, you become an inspiration to others, and then you can be more helpful that way. Sometimes we want to change the world, and all we have to do is change ourselves. So, like I said, this is just a token of knowledge from a salesman that has sold many things and that has bought many things. So if you like to practice these things, I suggest that you begin the soul searching and to put things in perspective. But first, begin with your relationships with the people around you. That's how I did it, and that's what I'm still working on. So, happy life, and I hope you get less stress as soon as possible. Thank you for tuning to The Alan Show. Like, share, subscribe. I hope this helped you. Thank you.